Welcome to a new week here on The Pulse. Hello, we're coming to you live from our studios here in Kokomlemle on digital address GA0992539. These are the stories making headlines so far. More stranded flood victims as torrential rains journey through regions in the northern part of Ghana. At least 11 people have died in the northeast and Savannah region. We're taking you to the northern regional capital of Tamale and Sagmerugu, which have had their share. We're live on the ground for the latest. Also coming up, is it a matter of the spirit or the letter? Today we look at the law against participation in active partisan politics by chiefs, as endorsing comments made by some of them revise the conversation. Political pundits say that is worrying, but is it? Let's have a conversation. Also in this package, how affordable is affordable in Ghana? Housing and all the details that comes with it. Have you been able to afford one yet? We'll talk to property experts as we look at the available options given the cost of rent here in Accra and elsewhere. Join us on GoTV 144, DSTV 421, and on YouTube and Facebook where we're streaming live. Do share the link and invite someone to join us. I am Gifty Ando Apia. This is The Pulse. Please be my guest. Welcome to the show. Let's go through the details together. Now, the Bailey Bridge at Vieri in the West district of the Upper West region is gradually becoming a death trap as most of the boats and notes on the floor deck have gone missing. This has become an issue of concern for drivers and passengers plying the route as the about 20-year-old bridge is left unattended to. JoyNews' Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam reports that residents of Vieri and other adjoining communities have fears that they may be cut off from the district capital and the rest of the region should the bridge not be attended to. And as you know, there is flooding up north. This is certainly a big deal for the people there. Rafiq Salam's report.
If you are a first-timer visiting Vieri in the West district of the Upper West region, passing through the Verimpere Chansa Nakoro Road, you may have the feeling that you will have a jolly and comfortable ride throughout until you get out of the bituminous surface at Verimpere. You will know that you have to revise your notes. The road is deplorable, bumpy, replete with gaping manholes. You will mistake him for a rice muddy pitch or fish pond. The area is a hub for criminals and their elements. Most of the armed robbery cases reported in the district occurred on the stretch. Drivers plying the route says though they struggle on the bumpy road to get to Vieri, it's not much of a concern to them for now. Their major concern is this Bailey Bridge, which was constructed almost 20 years ago. Watching it from afar, you will think that there's no doubt about its construction integrity. A careful look at the bridge showed that most of the boats and knots are absent. That clearly means that it is a disaster in waiting. Most of the plates at the entrance of the bridge have shifted due to the unavailability of the bolts and knots. You can even peep through standing to see the water beneath the bridge without a struggle. Drivers, passengers and riders plying the route told me they always have their hearts in their mouths anytime they have to cross over the bridge.
No, it's not good here.
Why?
They have to do something about it. If not, maybe one day we'll get stranded over here.
Okay. So when you are crossing here, don't you have fears?
Oh, I have fears.
We are very scared. Myself and my passengers, I think at the moment we are never safe. Our life is at risk and we are calling upon the government and then stakeholders and benevolent societies to come to the aid of the people here. If not, within this rainy season, anything can happen. So if they could come to our aid, we'll be very grateful.
This is the major route that connects them to the heart of the one municipality. They think that if adequate steps are not taken, they will be cut off from the rest of the region. Reporting for JoyNews, Rafiq Salam, Vieri.
And away from the bridge, let's talk about flooding. Now, victims of floods in the northern communities of Tamale Metro and Sagnerugu are appealing to government to come to their aid after their homes were submerged and properties destroyed. Heavy rains yesterday flooded the capital Tamale, causing the Sagnerugu Kukuo Dam to overflow its banks. Here are some residents who spoke to us.
Started rain around 2 going. So all we had that it was a heavy rainfall behind us here, so it broke the wall. So the water burst into the rooms and everything was filled up. So we have to wait till somewhere 5 going in the evening, so we can go in and clean up a little bit to get a place to sleep. So that's how it started, and we are here cleaning our stuff to get a place and replace them back. But most of our stuff are gone and explored.
How long did it take you to be able to get the water out?
Oh, it took us almost 3 hours to get the water out.
Your name?
Nadia.
Yesterday it was too much.
When you say it was too much, what do you mean?
Like, this is the first time we've been experiencing it, but this one was too much. It was, as you can see over there, the way the water flooded everything here. So I was at work. When I came back, I was full of water. So we just started cleaning.
How long have you been doing have you been doing the cleaning?
The whole of yesterday, yes and night. We started yesterday night.
What have you lost?
A lot. As you can see, my items are over there. They were all submerged in the water.
What items are these?
Sound systems, fridge, TV, everything. My chairs, my motorbike was also in the water, so a lot.
What do you think accounted for the water coming into your homes?
Okay, so for the water, like, there are 2 causes. The first one is the gutter, it's not that bad. And second, as you know, climate changes. So like the way the rain came, it was too much. Because it's like for about 2-3 hours. So the water was too much. And maybe.
Let's get to our regional correspondent, Martina Bugri, on the ground to bring us up to speed on the situation there. Hello, Martina. Martina, do you hear me? It looks
yes,
like
I can hear you.
Right. So it's been Savannah region, it's been Northeast region, it's been Upper East region. It looks like now it's the flooding or the rains have get to your area. What is the latest on this situation?
Well, the latest, it just started raining just now. And it means since yesterday we've had rains and still raining. The clouds gathered this morning and then they sped. And we gathered again somewhere around 1, and it just started raining. Now, yesterday's downpour was so heavy that areas that would normally not flood had some flooding yesterday. And I cited Britain earlier this morning. They've never had flooding, but yesterday they had some flooding. And so areas that normally would flood like Sawaba, Gumani, those were overwhelmed yesterday. At Gumbehini, towards the traffic light, somebody almost got drawn. We are told NADMO had to rescue the person, but the person's motorbike went with the flood. A lot of people have lost their properties, and they are attributing this incessant flooding to small drainage systems. You know, the drainage systems are not wide enough, and so when the water comes within a few minutes, it floods the place, and then begin to enter into port. But I've also been speaking to NADMO, and we are told that after the time I spoke to the Tamale Metro NADMO coordinator, it was around some few minutes to 12, and they had already recorded about 900 people who were displaced, and that's about 486 households. He also attributes the flooding to the small drainage system and also people building in waterways. What we do know now, even though NADMO will not confirm, but they do not have resources to disperse to these people who are displaced.
Martina, in the other regions that I've mentioned, at least 11 people have been killed. Thankfully, there hasn't been any such record in the northern region. Is that correct?
That's true. For the northern region, we haven't recorded anything yet, and we are just hoping that nothing like that happens. But with what is happening, if it continues, it's possible that we could lose lives. Because I saw the Taha Bridge continuously gets flooded each time it rains. Yesterday was extraordinary. I could not cross to my house yesterday. I had to return back into town and find a place to sleep. So if you are somebody who doesn't know that route very well, you can just drive in and you are carried away, or you can just walk into the flooding waters and it will carry you away.
Wow. And let's talk about the response that has come in so far. You've indicated that you've had some interaction with NADMO. How are they responding to this particular occurrence in the northern region, given that they have had to deal with the other regions which are in a more precarious situation?
What they are doing for now is just take data and ensure that those the very deep areas where we have these flooding, the core places, they are educating people to relocate whilst that's just all they are doing for now, educating people to relocate and gathering data.
Interesting. Martina, I'm hopeful that what people have had to deal with in other parts of the country, those who are putting up in schools, etc., is not the situation in the northern region. Can you confirm that?
In the northern region, it's Nawini areas that people are being sheltered in schools. But the Tamale Metro itself is Sanerbu. We haven't had any yet. But if the rains continue like this, definitely we would have people to be relocated. And once schools have reopened, it will mean that there will be a difficulty in finding shelter for these people.
Martina, thank you very much for those updates. As disturbing as they will be. Martina Bugri is our correspondent in the northern region there. Like I indicated in my introduction earlier, it has been several days, even weeks of rains and flooding from spillage of dams. We're looking at the Savannah region, the northeast region, and the upper east region. Now, the flooding or the rain seems to be traveling all the way, and it has reached Sagnarugu and the northern regional capital, Tamale. Martina Bugri there has been reporting on this. She says it looks like it hasn't been as bad as it has been in the other regions, and hopefully we don't get there. Now, after several months of staying at home, dealing with lockdown and probably frustrations at home, a lot of students are excited to be returning to school. Well, even with that, the same cannot be said for students of Wasipe Senior High School in Daboya in the North Gonja district of the Savannah region. They are stranded with no classrooms for their studies, as all 6 classrooms are being occupied by recent flood victims who were relocated there by NADMO. Let's talk to Isaac Nonya, who is our correspondent on the floor. Hello, Isaac. Isaac, what is the situation right now?
The situation remains the same as in the morning. The few students who came and left, and the victims who occupied all the classrooms are still there with their goods and their belongings. No showing any sign of leaving any women for now. The only difference, which is minor, has to do with the men who went to the farms, leaving the women and children behind to stay safe from the flood.
Well, let's talk about the students. Have they started reporting to school already?
The students haven't reported, neither did the teachers also reported. We saw a few number of them. We saw about 3 girls who came around, and during a tip of eye, they vanished, and leaving nobody around. We also thought GES would have come to the area, but not get there. So as we speak now, all the victims who were relocated to the Wasipe Senior High are still here intact, including the other private school that is very close to Wasipe Senior High. Also still stay there, waiting for NADMO to come to their aid by relocating them and allow school to resume.
Talking about NADMO, you've been interacting with them. Let's listen to that conversation that Mr. Nonya had with the NADMO. When we return, we'll talk more about what the flood victims are saying about this situation.
That is if they will not relocate to the affected areas.
They will relocate.
Yeah, we will do all that we can. And then we are appealing to all those who are touched by their flood to come to their aid so that we resettle them at a location where we may not experience such disaster.
School is opening on the 5th. JSS2, SS2, they're coming. What happened to the classroom that are being occupied by the victims?
As you can see over there, the district and then RCC, in collaboration with other high powers, have brought some relief items that can that are enough, not so enough, but temporarily can relocate and then settle them well.
Before the 5th of October?
As you can see, most of the materials are there. And then if we mean within 2-3 weeks, we can put up structures that will make them more comfortable than they were.
That's why I asked. 5th October is just next week, where the JSS2 are supposed to come and start classes to complete the term.
Like you said, JSS2.
SS2, I mean.
Yeah, SS2.
Yes.
Probably we will plead with them to still use some of the facility as we prepare them for the relocation.
So that's the NADMO official. I beg your pardon, speaking to Isaac Nonya. Isaac, let's talk about the response or the reaction that the victims who are having to now share the classroom with students who now have to come back are saying. How do they react? What do they say, knowing very well that the students, the original occupants of the classrooms are ready to come in?
Victims, they don't have much to say. They were only surprised to see students who came out with uniforms, obviously suggesting that they have come to take over their classrooms.
Isaac?
But as to whether not able to read them, yeah.
I lost you. I lost you briefly there, but what I heard you say is that they don't really say anything. They are surprised about students showing up in their school uniforms. Do they know what to do? Are they moving? Are they just saying you can't come in because we've been relocated here? Do they talk to these students? What do they say?
They must speak to the students, but facially they look surprised. Look at the students coming in uniform. They knew they are staying in the school. They are aware of that. And so when they saw the students in uniform, the movement who were there didn't know whether school have resumed or not. Obviously, I have no idea. But the students also standing looking at them were equally surprised that if school have resumed, we will have relocated and leave the school for us. But while we are still here, I think it's time for it to move. So the gaze between the two, the student and the victims, was obvious not to know that each didn't understand why one was there. And as to whether the situation will change from today going, is one mark about because NADMO did not indicate that they were able to evacuate these people from the school, rather than the assembly, who initially made an attempt of getting a temporary accommodation for them, is able to come definite, indicating their readiness to relocate these victims and leave the school for academic work.
Isaac, if you look at the situation, I mean, we just spoke to Martina in the northern region where the rains, she says, have started again. Do you think, by your assessment of the situation, whether there will be any change in the coming days?
In terms of rain, I would think yes, because as we speak now, the water has descended, and most of the funds that were submerged are coming up. Just that those that were submerged, yam, maize, groundnut have gone bad. But within the residential area in Daboya, Yape, and Sankakura, the ground is safe. Apart from one that also told us, we were there personally and we saw that the water has descended, the place is dry. Just that those stay around the river, who are fisher folks, are those who are pleading not to go back, but the government should help them get shelter at their present location.
Isaac, thank you very much for that update. Isaac Nonya, there is a correspondent bringing us up to speed, our correspondent for the Savannah region, bringing us up to speed on what's happening. Schools were shut in March this year following a presidential order to contain and manage the spread of COVID-19. President Akufo-Addo earlier reviewed this directive, which recently saw final year students going back to school to write their exit exams. Today, it is the turn of second year students to report to complete the academic calendar. And most of the students we caught up with seem really passionate about calls for government to also provide them with PPEs as they go back to meeting with their peers for the first time in a very long time. You know how that interaction can be. Here are some students of Kotobabi cluster of schools here in Accra who have been talking to us.
And essentially, the Form 2 students are back to school. They tell me, in fact, expressing a lot of excitement about the fact that they are having to reconnect with their students and their teachers in person to access, instructions here in the school. I see them, going about the various classes, trying to tidy up as they would normally do, even before COVID-19 came. But here, fortunately, this is the office, or if you like, the building that hosts the district GES, the Awaso Central District GES. And I'm joined by the PRO of the GES. Was the fumigation exercise done here?
Exactly. It was done in every school in our municipality. Were fumigated last week.
So all of the schools were fumigated last week? Okay. Well, let me try and speak to a few of the students here. What's your name?
Michael.
Your name is Michael. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
You are feeling good. You are finally having to... How long have you been in the house?
Almost 6 months.
Almost 6 months. So when you were at home, what were you doing?
Learning, going to rehearsals.
You're going to rehearsals?
Yeah.
What sort of rehearsals do you do?
Piano rehearsals.
You play with the piano, I see. Interesting. So what type of learning were you doing? Extra classes? How was the learning?
So like I do my... I read my textbooks and notebooks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what, you didn't get to take advantage of any of the TV learning platforms, Joy Learning?
Yeah, I do, like it's a part of my learning. And Ghana Learning TV too.
Okay. So Joy Learning is part of your, and that was useful for you?
Yes.
I see. So now that you're returning to school, what are you hoping?
Better teaching and a lot of, like, I don't think like the sports will be going on, so the teaching should be like...
There'll be no sports, so the teaching should be more.
Yeah.
Great, but we know that you're supposed to be wearing face masks and all that. Why are you not wearing face masks?
We are working, so we cannot be breathing well.
Okay. What's your name?
My name is Blessing Davui. Sometimes you are learning, your parents will be sending you left and right. You'll be going out, so your friends will be calling you to come. So I don't feel happy being at home. So when I came to school this morning, I'm happy.
But in the house, I was not happy. It was boring being in the house. When I heard there was a lockdown, I didn't even travel. My mother was forcing me, but I didn't go anywhere. I told her I'm not going to travel, but this when I came to school, I feel proud.
How did you prepare for it?
First of all, I want to thank His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo for reopening the school for us. I'm really excited. Our expectations are to complete Form 2 and be in Form 3, to write our BC and go to our SS.
The expectation is that I hope all the teachers will have their own attention on us so we could complete Form 2 and write our BC successfully.
My expectation is that the teachers will have patience for us in our learning.
Meanwhile, delays in provision of PPEs is the story told earlier when the final year students were allowed back in school. While President of NAGRAT, Angel Kabonu, is concerned that not all schools may have received government-sponsored PPEs yet. He wants government to speedily provide these PPEs as the academic work begins. He spoke on the AM show.
Well, we are very concerned with the SHS students and even the BEC students because our teachers are in all these areas. Yes, the only concern we have is the COVID-19 protocols, whether the PPEs are in the schools and whether they are adequate, whether everybody psychologically is furnished him or herself to respond positively to these protocols, because we don't have, I understand what is happening in Europe is that there is a second spike and a second wave of the disease. Almighty Donald Trump is down, and so on and so forth. So we don't want that situation to happen here. Schools are opening, parents are apprehensive, teachers are apprehensive, students are psychologically traumatized. Let it begin and let's see how it goes.
I thought that by now you'll be in the position to tell us if there's enough PPEs in the schools, for instance.
Oh, that I will. I'm talking to you from Cape Coast. I've been in Cape Coast from Friday, and I've not monitored all schools. Okay. You know, there are some schools that have very strong old students. You know, like my school, Pope John Secondary School. Mama, not like your school.
You are.
And you
are reminding us that you were kicked out of the NSMQ competition.
Oh, we gave it to them on silver platter. You know, so we have schools that have very strong old boys and old girls who themselves have taken initiative to provide some of these PPEs. Unfortunately, there are some other schools that do not have this, and they will depend on government and the state for this provision. There are also some parents. They have adequately stocked the boxes of their children with some of these protective gears. Again, let me admit that there will also be some other children who will need the state to support them. So when I get back from Cape Coast today or tomorrow, we will just begin to do the monitoring and look at the situation. And I can assure you, when you interview me on Thursday, I should be able to give you up-to-date information on the situation on the campus.
Okay.
Let's get on the phone now. We speak to CHAS's president, ALHAJI YACOUB ABUBAKARI. Hello, sir. Thank you for your time this afternoon. Hello, ALHAJI. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you all right.
Great. Thank you for your time. I want to take your first of all, take your assessment. It's been, you know, the day probably has come to an end for those who went to school today. What is your initial assessment?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. By the grace of God, indeed, today is the reopening date. And so far, we have received quite some number of students who have reported. And we expect that others will still come up to around 6 this evening. Then those who have not been able to make it today will make it from tomorrow onwards. So far, the students are in school, and the school activities will definitely kickstart with their presence in the school.
I get this impression, correct me if I'm wrong, that there has been low turnout. You didn't get the number of students coming back. You didn't get as many as you probably had expected.
Yeah, the attendance has not been as great as we expected it to be.
Okay.
But the number is quite appreciable to that have reported. And it is still a bit early in the day because it's just about 3:30 now. So normally it is from this time up to 6 that quite a good number of them show up in the school. So we're still expecting quite a good number of them to come.
Oh, okay, but by 3:30 you mean the borders?
Yeah, we are referring to the borders. As for the day students, definitely they will start coming from tomorrow.
Okay, right. So why do you think this is the low turnout? Do you think that students are still, or parents are perhaps still apprehensive about taking their children to school, given that there hasn't
not necessarily that. You know, the first day of reopening, usually it is the borders who show up, indeed. The day students will always wait and come the following day because they know the first day there wouldn't be serious academic activities going on. It is just cleaning and trying to tidy up the place to make it easy for academic activities to take place. So usually the first day you don't get the day students showing up. It is the borders who come.
Okay. So, well, let's see. As you say, it's 3:30. Let's see what happens between now and tomorrow. But in terms of preparation of the campuses, again, your assessment.
So far, our schools have been fumigated and disinfected. And for that matter, the environment is okay for students to come and then teaching and learning to go on. Then in terms of the PPEs for the COVID-19 too, we have received some quantity, but not enough.
Okay.
And that one, the leadership of Charles had a meeting with the management of Ghana Education Service on the 28th of this month, last month, September. That is Monday, and we drew their attention strongly to that. And we are sure that the equipment would be in our school, hopefully before the reopening day, which is today. But as I speak to you now, some schools have had, others haven't gotten anything yet. And those who have even had, the quantities are still a bit on the lower side. In other words, it cannot spread out to all the students.
Okay. Can we look at figures, if you like, or numbers, if you like, even if it's percentage? If you take the number of PPEs that have been received so far across the schools that you are in charge of, what percentage would you put that?
With regards to the school, so far our discussion has been that can we hear from the regional chairs those who have received, the number of schools in their regions who have received. And some of them will tell us about 50% of the schools have received, others have not received. Others will just say no school in their region has received anything yet. That is how the picture is. Now, coming home, like where I am in Kumasi, Tiamadia Senior High School, we were given 100 pieces of the nose mask. And meanwhile, my school, the second-year students alone are over 2,000. So in other words, we have received only about half of the quantity if we are even to give one each to a student.
That's not even half of the, if you have 2,000 at least and 100 nose masks, that's like, I'm not so mathematically inclined, but that's like 10%.
We have received 1,000 pieces of the nose mask.
1,000, right.
Very good. Right. And our student population in Form 2 alone is over 2,000. So on the average, we can say we have received about 50% of the requirement of mask for students only, not to talk of the staff.
Yeah.
We have equally drawn the attention of management that the Veronica buckets that were brought to us in our schools and the stand, we were questioning the quality of those materials because a lot of them got cracked and spoiled in no time. And so we drew management's attention that it shouldn't be assumed that because these things were brought earlier, we will still have them in our schools. Quite a good number of them were spoiled, and there was the need for fresh quantities to be brought to the school. That one too, we made it known to our management. But they have brought the sanitizers, of course, that one too of a limited quantity. They have brought the liquid soap, also of a limited quantity. So we are still expecting that these things would be brought to us at the school level for us to be able to adhere to the protocols of the COVID-19.
Is there a plan, for example, to allow parents or individuals or groups, or student associations to, for example, support if you're expecting these items and they've not come?
For now, even in the earlier opening that we did, parents on their own volition provided their wards with some of these materials, especially the nose mask, and quite a good number of them came with it. And we encourage parents that given the situation that we have now, even when they are leaving from their homes to come to the school, it's expected that parents will provide them with this to protect themselves as they go to the school. So yes, parents are allowed to give some support to their wards as far as these PPEs are concerned, especially the nose mask and possibly the sanitizers.
Yeah. You did indicate that you've told management about this shortfall in the items that you have received. What response did you get?
We are given the assurance that every arrangement was in place to get them sent to the school, so we should rest assured.
Okay, so what happened in the chain of the arrangements? Did they tell you?
So as I speak to you now, it was after that meeting that 3-4 days thereafter just 2 days ago, we had our discussion on our plan, trying to contact all the regional chairs to see what was the situation at their school levels. And the response we received was what I said, that in some cases, some of the regional chairs, they have received some quantities, others have not received at all.
Okay. Okay. Does this disappoint you in any way, where your expectation is that all of these will be intact before the students are even allowed to come to school?
Verily, we would have wished that these things were brought to the school earlier so that we could put things in place and have a better management of the school before the students report to school. But be as it may, we are not in normal time now, so we are all expected that the situation that we find ourselves, we manage and then move on with it.
These are initial stages yet. I mean, like you said, this is the first time they're coming back to school, so this is the first day. So certainly we should be able to come back to you perhaps during the week to find out how it has gone, raise all the challenging, the challenging issues, so we can find some answers to those problems. Thank you very much. I've been talking to ALHAJI YACOUB Abubakari, is the president of CHAS. Now, CHAS is the Conference of Heads of Assisted Schools. There, he says, I mean, about 50% of the PPEs expected have been received. He can speak specifically for his school, Tia Ahmadiyya, where he says he received 1,000 for. If you look at his population, he's looking at least over 2,000 students for just the second year student alone. So that's like 50% of what has been received. And also in terms of the Veronica buckets, there have been some breakages here and there that needs replacement. But the good thing is some parents and other people are already helping, you know, the children to have those PPEs. But of course, we know the government ought to provide some of these as they had promised. In the meantime, government has directed all schools to ensure high observance of the COVID-19 protocols. Deputy Minister for Education, Dr. YACOUB, says safety measures adopted during the peak of the pandemic will and should be maintained. This comes in the wake of a government directive on the reopening of schools for all second-year students in both junior and senior high school levels to start today. Nanaya Aljima has been visiting some schools in Kumasi. He has this report.
Senior high school students on Green Track were home for almost 7 months, a measure adopted to check the spread of COVID-19. Boarding students in all senior high schools visited have started reporting to school in their face masks. Security men at Kumasi Secondary Technical School took temperature of students and visitors before allowing them access to the school. Veronica buckets were seen at vantage points, while students are handed hand sanitizers and nose masks for protection. Other schools, including Opokwari School and Anglican Senior High School, were spotted observing same protocols. Deputy Education Minister Dr. Educhum says government is learning from experience.
I think the interesting thing is that protocol observance in schools are on the higher side because authority figures are there. So I think in schools the protocols will be better observed than home. So I'm excited to see that the President has given permission for Form 2s to come to school, and they are coming. And I think the good news is that when they come, headmasters are going to do what they did, even with the final year students in there. That was the peak.
In some basic schools, including Great Rock of Ages International and Assemboys JHS, active lessons had started. Students at the JHS and SHS levels are happy to be back in school.
I feel very delighted to be back because I can learn. When we were in the house, I didn't get much time to learn.
Because when we were at home, we used to learn, but there are some subjects like science and social studies that needs explanation by teachers.
Wearing of the nose masks, the sanitizing, Veronica market is everywhere. So the protocols is good. It's flexible. I mean, everybody can follow it.
I think it's time for us to rep school again because we'll be writing just next year. I think we are now in Form 3 and we'll be having our WASI just next year. And we've missed a whole lot of semester. Yeah.
But some managers of private schools say government will have to open the school for all junior high school students to keep them in business. Proprietor of Solid Rock International, Mr. Isaac Boedi, explains measures are in place to ensure all protocols of the pandemic are adhered to.
Some class 1, JHS 1.
It is very difficult to run the school with proceeds from just JHS 2 students. I have 8 teachers and other staff to pay with the money we will make from them.
See, you have a class wakopena or mwaba and nipa bed you know what you never
We were expecting over 40 students, but only 28 reported today. As you see, we are observing the protocols very well, and we can do the same with all the JHS classes.
So let's go to the Education Ministry, see if we can get some answers to what happened in the chain of delivery for the PPEs. The government promised PPEs to the various schools. Vincent Esefua is PRO for the Education Ministry. He joins me on the line. Hello, Vincent.
Hi.
Vincent, thanks for your time. I just want to quickly find out, I've been talking to CHAS this afternoon, and they say about 50% of the expected PPEs have been received. They've been told, by the way, that all arrangements were made. It looks as if there was something happened in the chain of that delivery. Do you know what happened?
Well, let me say good afternoon to your cherished viewers. First and foremost, it is instructive to note that the government has been committed and is still committed in ensuring that there is no truncation as far as senior high school and junior high school students are concerned, especially for those who were not able to complete their second term and their third term and second semester respectively. Now, we have already indicated that we have to ensure that every school or every student is able to get all these PPEs. However, because of the system that we run, sometimes there may be some delays. We want to reassure the general public, especially parents and the students themselves, I feel like by extension the schools, that by the end of this week, we will not have a single student complaining for not having PPE, being it nose mask, being it Veronica buckets that are supposed to be provided to schools, being it tissues, being it liquid soap that are supposed to be provided. It is because there are some instances whereby transportation may be a challenge for some districts because we have remote tests of areas in some districts that some of the districts find it very difficult in even transporting these PPEs to respective schools. So I think that it is on that basis that we have this challenge. The GEN is aware that these challenges are there, but be that as it may, it is also important for us to let the Ghanaian public also know that most of the students or most of the schools have received these PPEs that are supposed to be used in their various schools so that academic exercise can be carried purposefully. Okay.
I just want to give you a typical example. The TI Ahmadiyya school, for example, they have 2,000, at least 2,000 second-year students. They've received only 1,000. But TI Ahmadiyya is in the capital, Kumasi. Transport is not really an issue there. Do you know what may have happened?
Well, this may be peculiar situations, which I think that as soon as possible, the Regional Directors of Education, led by Madam Mary, will have to ensure that within the next few hours, we should be able to provide the rest to them. When I was indicating some of the challenges, I didn't say that transportation is sacrosanct to all the challenges that we have.
I lifted that out. I lifted that out as an example for you to speak to because it's a known example. I mean, and I have the
But the GS will quickly deal with such instances, especially in schools that are in the middle of the city, like TI Ahmadiyya, as you just said. But clearly, there may be a challenge that we may have to look into. If 1,000 have already been sent, whereby we have about 2,000 schools, it means that clearly there's a certain problem that we may have to look at as soon as possible.
Okay. Whilst you're looking at that, I just add this. You don't need to comment on that because I have my next question coming up. But whilst you're looking at that, they've also mentioned the issue of broken Veronica buckets. Broken Veronica buckets and Veronica buckets that don't work, which was also an issue previously when we allowed the senior high, the final year students to go and finish up their paper. Like I said, you don't need to comment on that. The next question I want you to address, by the way, is the extension of contact hours. Some of the students we've been talking to are saying it's been what, 7 months of staying at home. They're thinking that extension of the contact hours with their teachers will help them regain or catch up on the things that they have lost.
Well, with issues of contact hours, I believe that it will lie within the ambit of especially in the senior high school, in the free SHS secretariats and the GES, if you like. The GES and the free SHS secretariats, I believe, have done a number of stakeholder consultations before the reopening of schools. And yes, it is true that it may be appropriate if the GES and the free SHS secretariat, especially for those in the senior high school, would ensure that there is an extension as far as the contact hours are concerned. But be that as it may, I think that these are issues that will have to also be addressed by the free SHS secretariat and the Ghana Education Service as well, so that if it is proper, if it is right that we have to extend the contact hours, so be it. But as we speak, we know that they've been in the house for 7 months. It is because of COVID-19, which is not something that all of us expected. Be that as it may, it is also the commitment of the government that will not truncate their studies and also ensure that they will be able to complete as their counterparts in senior high school 3 and junior high school 3 was able to complete. And so the general objective or vision of the government and the Ghana Education Service is that we need to make sure that they will be able to complete their 3rd term and their 2nd semester. Whatever it takes for us to get the quality of the education that we want, it is a commitment of the GES and the free SHS to ensure that we do that.
Do I get the sense that this is not something that is currently being discussed?
Well, I am saying that whatever it takes for us to ensure that quality is not undermined, the free SHS secretariat and the Ghana Education Service will ensure that we do that. Now, this is just the first day of the reopening of our schools, and going forward within some few hours or some few days, there may be some consideration that will be put out by the Ghana Education Service if it is important that we do so, because I am sure that it is possible that the Ghana Education Service might have received some complaints or some concerns as to whether we are supposed to ensure that we do consider some extensions. Be that as it may, if that is what we are going to do, then we will ensure that within some few hours or some few days we will communicate to the Ghanaian public whether it is important or not.
Vincent, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Echo Vincent Asifua speaks for the Education Ministry. Now, the principal of Jasikan College of Education, Dr. Daniel Kwesi Hammond, says the college is ready to handle large numbers that may be seeking admission into the school when admissions are opened. He says the school has enough existing accommodation in lecture halls and other convertible structures should it become necessary to handle numbers beyond what is expected. Peter Seno has more.
The principal, Dr. Daniel Kwesi Hammond, interacting with JoyNews during the homecoming of the 2000-year batch of all students of the college, says the college is ready with infrastructure and even convert other structures to meet the learning and accommodation needs of the anticipated large numbers of the free senior high school graduates who may be seeking higher education in the college. Over 3,500 students sat for the 2020 WASI exams, most of whom may be applying to the various colleges of education. These numbers, Dr. Hammond says the college is ready to handle.
I would say that, yes, we are ever ready to host them because in terms of classrooms or lecture rooms, we have enough. And if we are able to do our timetabling very well, we'll be able to host them. And then regarding the residential accommodation, we have at least adequate accommodation to take care of 2 batches for now. For the 3rd batch, which is yet to come, we have other plans in place. We have identified some structures that can be converted into residential accommodation.
He also says with proper planning, the staff on road would be able to handle the proposal for a double track to be introduced into the college system.
I think there is a proposal that there should be a double track for the students. We don't really know whether it has been firmed up and conclusions have been drawn. So we are still waiting for some information from our authorities. If we are able to do proper timetabling, the staff we have on ground now will be able to cater for the teaching and learning needs of the college. All we have to do is to do proper timetabling.
Dr. Hammond made these remarks when the 2000-year batch of all students handed over a tiled dining hall to the school and also to mark their 20 years of completing college. Lawyer Leonard Sedro is the president of the year batch.
Our coming together is to, first of all, address our own welfare as members of the 2000-year group of JASICO, or Jazz Training College, and also as a group that will identify problems of the college and solve them. We have tiled the entire dining hall, but when we came in 2017 for the first homecoming, we realized that the dining hall did not have any, the floors were not tiled, so there was dust. And a place where you eat, there should be a certain congenial atmosphere. And so that explained our decision in 2017 to raise funds to tile the dining hall, and we've been able to do that.
The principal is urging other year groups to emulate their gesture and also come to the aid of the college to augment government efforts at providing infrastructure in the college. Peter Sanu for JoyNews.
All right, so if you are an old student of a school, you want to bring your people together, see how you can help your school as well. Peter Sedo's reports there. This is still The Pulse with me, Gifty and Opia. How about we take a very quick break here? When I return, we still have a lot to talk about. We're talking about how affordable Ghana's affordable housing is. You've heard a lot about affordable housing, but really, is it affordable? Also, we want to talk about chieftaincy and politics. At what point do we say that they've breached the law, chiefs, when it comes to their active participation in politics? Talk about that when we return. I want to hear you. Send your comments to us on 0540-109009. That's 0540-109009. I'll be right back. You're welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, this week, the Ghana Health Service will restart the immunization of children against the polio virus in eight regions affected or at high risk of being affected by the outbreak of the virus in Ghana and other West African countries. Despite earlier efforts at halting the spread of new cases, additional cases have unfortunately been detected in other regions and the Greater Accra region, bringing the total number of polio virus type 2 cases since July 2019 to 31, I beg your pardon. Currently, 11 out of the 16 regions in the country have confirmed at least a case and or reported an environmental event of type 2 polio outbreak. So, what's the plan to tackle this comprehensively? I'm joined in the studio by Dr. Kwame Amponsa Achiano, is the program manager for Expanded Program on Immunization. He'll first tell us about Ghana's situation as of now. Doc, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you too. Good afternoon to you.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't have expected to hear in the 21st century that we're still dealing with polio, because I think we stopped having all the big conversations about it. It wasn't as we used to. What is the situation right now? Because it looks like just when we thought we had made a lot of progress, we're having to revisit the conversation and even a nationwide immunization.
Yes, we have made a lot of strides, but polio is not gone yet.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, so last year, somewhere July, August, we had the type 2 outbreak. As you did in your intro.
Yeah.
So we started the outbreak response. Normally when you have just a case, you need to respond to it. So we started from the north and we did quite a number of regions, but we kept on getting additional cases.
Wow.
And so we were responding when the COVID came in and we had to suspend.
Do you think this has anything to do with the COVID outbreak?
We started having the type 2 outbreak in July.
Way before
Remember, COVID came around December.
According to, but in Ghana, we announced our first case in March.
Yeah,
but then, when you say type 2, help us break it down for our viewers and myself.
Okay, so we have 3 different viruses that will cause polio. In fact, they are cousins, actually. You have types 1, 2, and 3. So the outbreak we had is a type 2 outbreak.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so, and we have basically 2 forms. You have what we call the wild virus, which recently Africa announced that we have, I wouldn't say eradicated, but rather we are free. Okay. Because once you have a case anywhere, you cannot talk about eradication.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but we had a type 2 outbreak last year, and we've been battling with it. Okay.
Is there a cause? Is there something that causes it that perhaps we can do something against?
Yes. In our case, it is because of very low coverage of immunization, not in Ghana, but outside Ghana.
Okay.
And once you have that, and you also have poor sanitation, there is a recipe for polio. And so we had an imported one.
Okay.
Because our children were not protected against the type 2 virus.
I see.
At the time. But now we've done, if you remember, we did what we call the inactivated polio virus campaign to protect them. But of course, once you have an outbreak, you need to keep on responding until you break transmission. So that's what we are doing now.
So let's look at what you're doing right now. You're doing a nationwide immunization.
No, we are doing it in 8 regions.
Yeah, you could say it's
sub-national.
Sub-national.
Yes.
That's how you describe it. Okay, that's the appropriate way of description. But it still looks like 8 regions. It's still
8
a lot.
out of 16.
Yes.
In fact, we've covered the others in a phased manner.
Okay.
So these are the last 8.
So what exactly do you do? Your people go on the ground, like we know, with the immunization bags, and they come with, let's say, some kind of certificate, and they say, we have to immunize your child.
Exactly.
How is it going?
So far, we are doing what we call the social mobilization. We are yet to start the actual vaccination exercise on Thursday, from Thursday to Sunday.
Okay.
So what we are doing now, for which we are having this
conversation,
is that we are trying to mobilize the society to support the exercise, also getting people informed, well informed.
Do I get the sense that it has been a big, getting people to understand and come on board with this process has been a big deal for you, has been a big problem?
Well, for every campaign is different, so you need to approach it differently.
Okay.
And that is why we do social mobilization all the time for every campaign. I would say that immunization or vaccination is largely accepted, but you have very few areas, pockets of, I wouldn't say refusal, but hesitancy.
Why are they hesitant?
Well, if they don't understand exactly why you are doing, yes.
Which areas are these where you have the most problems?
I wouldn't say we have a lot of problems, but basically the gated compounds.
Okay.
The gated communities, because of security, security reasons.
So somewhere like,
they don't even allow,
if it's in Accra,
is it a Bellagio
Airport residential area? I know my rights.
Those that have gates.
Ah, right.
So like the airport.
But shouldn't they rather be people who understand that this is a health emergency and rather respond to
That's what I'm saying, that they probably do not understand what we are doing.
Or is it that they don't trust the system?
Oh, I think trust is relative, but largely, once you get people going to the immunization centers, then obviously they trust the system.
I see. Let's end this conversation by, telling our viewers why this process is very important and why those who are watching should be able to carry on the message to other people. As far as we know, it's about the future of our children.
Yes, the children are the most important resource of every nation. Polio, as you know, is one of the diseases that is earmarked for eradication. Eradication means wiping it out of the surface of the earth, except in some laboratories where research is done, so that it is no longer a disease that people would worry about. In fact, we've made a lot of progress. I'll say that we are now free of the wild polio virus in Africa and many other parts, except for 2 countries that are still endemic, Afghanistan and Pakistan. And we know that one polio case anywhere is a polio case everywhere. Okay. And therefore, protecting the children is very, very important. And that is why we are doing this exercise. More so when we have an outbreak. You need to break transmission so that the children don't get paralyzed. Polio also kills. And so we want to protect our children. They need the vaccines much as they need their legs and limbs, other limbs.
I think that a very strong point he makes there is that you need it so that your children don't get paralyzed. And as long as there is one case is detected, we have to break the transmission. So what you have to do is to open up your doors and allow them. By the way, because of security reasons, people should look out for some kind of certification.
Exactly. We normally give them some kind of identification. And especially with the bag. It's the bag, nobody will go and buy those. The one you could.
People can steal it.
Oh, vaccination.
Just because they want access to your home.
Well,
thieves are very sophisticated.
I understand,
now.
But we also give them some form of identification. And in terms,
so when people come to your home, you should ask for the identification.
Exactly.
Okay. So what you do is ask for the identification, make sure it's authenticated, and then you can open up your doors for them. But let's break the transmission and let's keep our children safe and away from paralysis. I've been talking to Dr. Kwame Amponsa Achiano. He's the program manager for expanded program on immunization with the Ghana Health Service. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Can you believe it? So we have just 63 days to the election. By the time this week ends, we'll be entering the 50s. Well, John Mahama's running mate, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, is beginning a week-long tour of the Eastern region today as she whips up support for the NDC ticket for the election 2020. So what should we expect? Mawina Treba is her spokesperson. She's joining us via Zoom. Hello, Mrs. Treba.
Hi, Gifty. How are you?
I'm blessed. It's good to have you. It's been a long time. Okay. So
it has been a long time. Good to see you again, and a very good afternoon to all your viewers.
Okay. So let's start with where Prof is going this week. Which areas she's going and what she'll be doing exactly as you whip up votes. We have just 63 days.
That's right. We've got quite a number of constituencies to touch in our time here in the Eastern region. We're going to be, among many others, in Lower Manya-Krobo, which is actually where I'm speaking to you from now. We'll be in Upper Manya-Krobo today as well, Yilo Krobo and Okre. Tomorrow we have a packed day as well. We're going to be in Kade, Akwatia, Lower West Achim, and Koforidua. We'll move on to Nkoko. It's quite a significant number. We've got about 20 different constituencies to touch today. So between today and the end of the week. So we're quite excited about it. Quite excited to have the opportunity to interact with a broad section of constituents, particularly women's groups, youth groups. I think part of her big interest is also in people who often don't have the opportunity to engage. So people living with physical disabilities, market women's groups and associations. So in addition to the traditional authorities, she's definitely going to be highlighting aspects of the People's Manifesto to showcase the response that the NDC has to the issues and challenges that they've faced over the last 3.5 years.
I'd like to find out when you go out, and like you indicated, the groupings that you're dealing with, young people, women, persons with physical disabilities, what message exactly do you take to them apart from what you already have written in the manifesto, or do you just break it down for them?
Well, I mean, I think, Gifty, it's important that we all acknowledge that Professor Opoku-Agyeman's nomination has been more than just a game changer. I think it has altered the scope and the quality of political discourse in this country. She has been very clear right from the beginning of the announcement of her nomination that she wants to focus on issues. She's not particularly interested in political rhetoric that doesn't build any nation. And more importantly, she wants to listen and understand what the unique realities of people that she comes in contact with in every region are. And on the basis of that, she's then able to interact and speak to elements of the People's Manifesto that mean something to them. So whether she's meeting with Queen Mothers, which she has done today, to talk about better female representation at the traditional authority level, whether it is youth groups who are engaged in Okada business and helping them to understand how regularization of that industry can help them to make a meaningful contribution and be proud of what they do in terms of their livelihoods, whether it is women's groups and ensuring that her nomination is not just a novelty, but it inspires them to also feel that they can make a contribution in leadership. All of those different things bring a certain freshness and excitement to what Professor Opoku-Agyeman has been talking about, and that is an inclusive Ghana, a Ghana that is a place of peace, irrespective of political differences, a place where everyone has a fair opportunity to prosper and improve their lives in support of our national development agenda. I think those are the things that have created such an incredible euphoria and excitement everywhere she's gone. And of course, just her own empathy for people, especially for children, wanting to understand how her interventions as an academician and a stellar educationist will help to amplify the quality of execution around the policies in our People's Manifesto. So those have been recurring themes, Gifty, and I think people are genuinely very excited because it's a different approach to focusing on what we need to do as Ghanaians to resolve our problems and move forward.
Okay, I was just going to ask you about that, how she has been received, but it looks like you've answered that question for me in there. But this must be a very exciting journey for both you and Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, because this is certainly something new. Something different, like you say, and I'm looking forward to having a one-on-one conversation with both of you somehow, how it all went for you. But we'll say a very big thanks to you for your time this afternoon. Mawena Treba there, she speaks for Professor Jane Opoku-Agyeman, who is on a tour in the Eastern region. She mentioned that quite a number of constituencies that they'll be looking at. We'll bring you more as and when we have that information. Still the pulse with me, Gifty and Doppy. I'll do a very quick break. We'll be right back. Do stay with us. Welcome back once again. Now, one of the most difficult situations for many Ghanaians has been a place to lay their heads, be it rental or ownership of a property. Rent is so expensive, and landlords also charge exorbitant fees for their property, leaving many in financial problems after paying their rent. It's even worse when you try to own a house. High cost of building materials, land, and in some cases attacks by land guards have kept homeowners a mere dream home ownership a mere dream for many. Now, those who can't afford end up on the streets. As we build up to Habitat Fair, which takes place next month, we put the spotlight on this issue and speak to experts in the industry. First, though, here is some Ghanaians expressing their frustration at what the situation is.
Many Ghanaians dream of owning their own homes, but this does not come easily.
Normally, it depends. You see, when you have a good job, you are getting better pay or good pay. Renting might not be difficult for you at all. Whereby hustler like some of us is difficult.
Oh, sometimes it's very hard because by the close of the year, I can say maybe our work, we are not getting the work very easy for it to assist us to, pay our rent.
Ghana's housing deficit is estimated to hit 5.7 million by the end of 2020. Those who manage to raise some funds to find a place to lay their heads are confronted with high rent and property owners demanding long tenure fees, contrary to law. It remains an issue of concern to many.
To build a house, the land is the problem. If you get the land, the remaining is a process. You go in small, but you can't get going to build a house unless you plan it and you get the money small. But it's not easy.
The issue that I have is about the lands between the landowners and lands commission and the buyers. Yeah, that is where sometimes because of this crash of the langars and those things, then if you take it from that angle, it's very, very worried. And that's where I don't think things are going well in this particular town in Greater Accra, because we hear it from the very and minor angles.
Not once, not twice, it has been an issue that it has been bothering us, and it's not peculiar to me alone.
And you do know that the issue of owning a land, renting, is a big deal for all of us. Let's have a conversation on this. Like I said, this is towards our Habitat Fair very soon. But Daniel Ohene-Edu is manager, Planned City Extension Project. Planned City Extension Project is one of the people who will be at our Habitat Fair. Let's talk to manager Daniel Ohene-Edu. Hello, sir. Thanks for your time.
Thank you too.
So based
How
on
are
your
you doing?
Right, I'm blessed. Based on your experience from your work, what's making living in Ghana's urban centers such an expensive venture, especially when it comes to renting?
Yeah, I mean, as you rightly gave, in your introductory remarks, the issue about land, is key. Then the ability to pay, that is, we are talking about financing. But you realize that over the years, there's been some kind of efforts by governments from the year 2000, but it's still a challenge. So, I believe that this is an area we need to look at, the financing bit and then the issue of land.
Okay. Let's wrap up this conversation. Unfortunately, that's all time will allow us for today. We'll be having more of this conversation as we go along. But what can people do to secure their own homes? Is there a cheaper available option?
In fact, the Planned City Extension Project, I believe, offers a very credible alternative, in solving these problems. Because we're also looking at it from the planning perspective, and which is why we have come out with the rent-to-own option, rent-to-own. So one registers and begins to make some monthly rental payments. Within 2 years or so, your house is delivered to you. You live in there until you finish paying. It's flexible and it's interactive. So we are looking at this approach or model, to provide housing irrespective of your income background.
Okay.
That's why it's starting from as low as 699 Ghana cedis. We have the low income bracket, we have the middle income bracket. So we are working towards, achieving this.
That sounds really interesting, and I really wish that we had a lot of time for today, but it's not bad. We can revisit this conversation and look at how people can get onto this program. Of course, you'll be at the Habitat Fair, so we'll get people to also find out more about it. But this is a conversation I'd want to personally have a lot more to talk about and to have our viewers join us. Thank you so much. Daniel Ohene-Edu, he is the manager for Planned City Extension Projects. He says what they intend to do is to do the rent to own. You rent, you pay in bits, and next thing you know, it's yours. We'll talk about that a bit more. But I've run out of time, unfortunately, and apologies for our inability to bring you one of our headline stories, the chieftaincy and politics. Araba Kumsin had a conversation on that earlier on the new election brief. We'll bring you more on JoyNews Prime as well, what people are saying about what happened this weekend, bringing up the conversation about chieftaincy and politics. I'm Gifty Amdo Apia. It's a pleasure having you. Let's do this again tomorrow. There is more news at myjoyonline.com. Many thanks for your time.